I think one of the biggest things that we face in our industry is people not wanting to initially connect with a mortgage specialist. And if you're serious,
well, it's because it's boring. What's exciting about getting pre-approved for a mortgage when I can go and look at shiny houses?
Special episode, guys. This is stress test related, straight off the press. Yesterday, the Bank of Canada held the overnight lending rate as expected. So we're happy to say that the rates held. That being said, we're going to update you on the current stress test. This is Andrew Roach. I'm Ross Bridges. We are here with the R&B Real Estate Show, helping you find your way home. I hope you enjoy as we educate you a little bit on preparing yourself for buying your home or looking at your financing options.
Yeah, so like you said, you know, the new stress test has been announced. It was announced a few days ago anyway, but it's always nice to kind of get a feel for, you know, how the market's going to react to that, how lenders are going to react to that, how you know, mortgage brokers are going to react to that. And then I guess when I say lenders, I mean like, you know, different packages, how quickly they start rolling out any of their changes, et cetera, right? So you know, what is a stress test, right? What is the stress test? The stress test is it's a theoretical interest rate that you might have to one day actually be able to afford, right? So when you and I go out and purchase a home, interest rates right now are crazy low, as we all know. Certainly adding fuel to the fire as far as housing demand goes, and trying to you know, the demand of the housing market and what's pushing prices up. I mean, one of the reasons, anyways. But when you and I go out and look for an interest rate, you shopping around, you get an interest rate of, you know, sub 2%. It's free money, but that doesn't mean that that's what you qualify on, right? So your contract rate and your qualifying rate are very different. Your contract rate is the actual interest rate that you will be paying. That's the actual interest rate, the rate attached to your contract, right? Whether it's a fixed rate, that'll be your fixed rate for the term of your contract, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5 years, if you take a 10-year, whatever the case may be. If it's a variable rate, that'll fluctuate with whatever prime is. And that, Ross, like you said, overnight interest rate was held. So that would be tied to the prime lending rate, would be tied to your variable interest rate. Sorry. So anybody with a variable rate mortgage, your mortgage interest rate didn't change last night. So your contract rate is what you actually pay. Your qualifying rate is what you are qualified on, right? So you use your gross debt service ratio and your total debt service ratio, and those numbers are applied to your mortgage rate is applied to the qualifying rate, which currently is 4.79%. And what they're proposing, and what they have proposed, and what's actually going to be coming in June 1st is 5.25%. So it's going up just under 50 basis points, or half a percentage, right? So the qualifying rate is going up. So what's the significance of that? The significance of that is you can't qualify, I should say, for as much mortgage as you can now, right? So in June, you won't be able to qualify for as much. Now, if you're one of those, you know, just more conservative buyers, I've got a handful of them right now that are, you know, qualified for 750, but your comfort zone is 600. That won't affect you at all. But for those of you that are maybe less conservative and like to, you know, push the envelope a little bit and maximize your buying power, if you're buying at your max, then your max is about to drop, right? So I think that's probably why we're seeing another resurgence, you know, of interest right now, is after that was announced a few days ago. There's extra demand that's being pushed into the marketplace as people try to get out there and purchase a home ahead of June 1st, when the mortgage stress test comes into play.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, this will create the second wave in terms of what we're going to see with an accelerated spring market. We will see a booming spring market with people wanting to enter the market, increased inventory, but it's saying that you're basically you're going to be reducing your buying power by about 4%, as Andrew just illustrated. So, and this will come into effect as of June 1st. So the importance right now for you guys for definitely locking in your rates. There's nothing more important right now than making sure that we can put you in contact with, we've got some amazing mortgage specialists. I know that Andrew and I are both going to be reaching out to our mortgage specialists and giving you guys some additional information immediately so that we can share that with you. But the concern right now for any of you out there is going, like, with the bank's concerns, or the banks, you know, obviously, is that they're worried about household debt and then being able to control household debt. So they're going to make sure that we can qualify for less. What you can do to ensure that you're going to be able to qualify for more, and this might be over the coming months, it's not going to happen overnight, but you know, ensuring that your credit rating is good, restoring credit. You might have to look at reducing your debt, maybe looking in areas where there's lower taxes, less condo fees if you're entering the market. Be very concerned with if you're pulling your credit in any situation, because like blanket consent where they could be pulling your credit is something that we definitely need to be concerned about, because they keep pulling your credit, that's going to lower it. Like we've talked about in episodes previously, please don't be going out and buying, like if you buy your home, don't be going out and buying a car or buying furniture and financing it, because it's just going to create additional stresses, play on words for the stress test, for what you're going to be facing when you take possession of your home. The banks will not like that, and they're looking for any excuse to reprimand consumers right now.
Yeah, and when I guess when you're saying the bank, we're kind of talking about, you know, the Bank of Canada versus, you know, the very much in it for profit financial institutions that you and I see on every corner. Specifically, it's, you know, the Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions, right? So the governing body that regulates our banking industry and insurance industries, et cetera, right? So so it's the higher powers that are concerned about, like Ross said, you know, the accumulation of debt that we have going on in this country. We shared on a previous episode, I can't remember which episode that was. It might have been episode 8, where there was that the Canadian housing market, that animation, the Canadian housing market going up in relation to the rest of the world, right? Where you know, I can't remember what it was. It was since 2005, I think it might have been, but regardless, you know, it showed the Canadian housing market, you know, starting at, like, you know, number 9, maybe out of 10, and just moving throughout the decade, or the last couple of decades, as it moved along to being not only in first place by the percentage of increase since again, I think it was 2005 that was taken, but being more than double the next being number 2, right? So I think we ended up at the end of 2000 was when that illustration ended, being up more than twice as much as whoever was in second place, which I honestly I can't remember right now because I was so focused at how far ahead the Canadian housing market was ahead of everyone else. But it's that's the concern for all of our regulators, for the Bank of Canada, for our economists, et cetera, right? Because of the amount of debt that we are carrying, you know, in the housing market, right? Because I mean, bigger housing market means bigger mortgages, which means just obviously just more debt, more responsibility on us, less of our income going towards you know, purchasing power of just normal consumer goods, right? Being able to invest back into our own economy if it's all going towards carrying costs of a mortgage, right? So anyways, that's kind of where that's all coming from, the higher regulators, right?
No, and just to kind of you know, disclaimer for all of you out there as you're looking at options, and there's a few things here that, you know, as the markets are changing and times are changing, we all want lower payments, but at what cost, right? A lot of people are going to be wanting to, well, I mean, there's options. We all have options, but if you're looking at amortization periods, please try to stick to that 25-year period versus a 30-year period. You're just going to be paying a lot more interest long term, unless that's your only option and you really want to get a home. There's going to be, right now it is a good time to look at, if you want to change, looking at maybe refinancing, right? So if you were potentially looking at renovations, heaven forbid you're going through a separation and you're looking to do a spousal buyout, right? So there are many different options out there right now, but just be aware, it's really painful paying down a mortgage with all the interest that we pay. So I think it's just important to make sure that you're getting, there's so many products out there to offer with like home equity lines of credit and things that we've discussed in previous episodes. So I think the big thing right now that we want to emphasize is get locked in now, right? And then let's know exactly. I had an issue with clients recently where there was a date change, an amendment, and it caused for their interest rates to change based on a 2-day period. It was a 2-week change in date close. And just to protect you and there are other realtors out there, if there's ever a date change, we need to be even more cognizant of protecting our clients than ever, to ensure that this isn't going to cost them thousands of dollars in terms of there being a difference in that rate. So as we're going into these interesting markets, which will be a very, very busy time, I think one of the things Andrew and I want to emphasize because of this is I wouldn't be waiting. This is a good time to get into the game. You're going to have a lot of homes coming on the market. I've said that a lot over the last episode and this one too. So let's get out there. Let's get started because you don't want to be going back and looking at higher interests and prices continuing to climb.
Actually, you made a really good point there, Ross, actually, that I admittedly have never thought about. And that was, the date change. And it seems like such a minor, concession. And sometimes it even works for you. I'm just going to change the date. Hey, I would like to be in the house a little bit earlier because I want to take advantage of the pool for longer. Or, let's go later. It means that I don't have to, I don't have to spend as much time or much money here or there or whatever the case may be. And we might just off the cuff be like, yeah, okay, that date works for me. But to your point, which again, I never thought of it, double check with your mortgage broker. Does that affect your interest rate at all? Because that mortgage broker may have locked in a rate for you as far as getting a rate hold, right? So you've got pre-approved, you locked in a rate for a specific period of time. But as we know, the fixed rates have actually been creeping up a little bit from their rock bottom, maybe about a month ago or so, right? And so if that pushes you outside of that rate hold threshold, then yeah, maybe that 2 week, like you said, or a couple of days, or maybe what you had said, puts you outside of that rate hold, in which case your mortgage rate goes up, I don't know, maybe 20 basis points or 30 basis points. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but hey, that 2 weeks or that couple of days just cost you, I don't know, $50 a month for 30 years, So yeah, that's a good point. Double check. And it's talking about kind of like, disclaimers, et cetera. We're in the industry, we're exposed to this stuff, but we're by no means professionals and experts in the mortgage field. So certainly we're just trying to pass along the info for you that what's being done. It's a way for you to pique your curiosity and go talk to professionals, right? And if you need, like Ross has said multiple times, if you need to speak with a fantastic mortgage broker, I personally prefer mortgage brokers over bank people, unless you know with absolute certainty that is a mobile mortgage rep specifically for mortgages in the bank. Too many times you talk to like an account manager and they're just clueless when it comes to mortgages, right? And how they actually work. But even still, I'm still going to give the nod to a mortgage broker over a bank rep, because the mortgage brokers will just have options for you, multiple options versus just kind of one product. But regardless, the point is the same. Reach out to an expert in that field and get the advice on your specific situation because of course everybody's is a little bit different, right?
No, I think it's getting organized. It's having a plan and saying, I think one of the biggest things that we face in our industry is people not wanting to initially connect with a mortgage specialist. And if you're serious,
well, it's because it's boring. What's exciting about getting pre-approved for a mortgage when I can go and look at shiny houses?
No, it's like doing homework or having to do an assignment. And then it's like, oh, I got to get this. I got to get, I got to go find. So, I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, you might have to find your taxes. You might have to give them information that you might not have readily available. But if you don't do it, then you're just prolonging things. And I think having a plan, have a plan to attack the plan, get it all in place so you know exactly what you can afford, and locking in that rate right now, man, that could save you some. That's the difference between you being able to maybe buy like Andrew said, a $700,000 home, or you're bumped down to 650, where you can't afford that townhome, and then you're looking for a freehold option, or you're looking for a 2-bedroom condo, and all of a sudden, lo and behold, you can't even afford that. And I mean, like we talked about, even one of our last episodes on not renting, please just figure it out so that you guys can start building equity. It's way better than renting.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you talked about the amount you can qualify for coming down approximately 4.5%, whatever the case may be. Just to kind of put that into perspective, some real world numbers. What that will, if we look at again, real world numbers, like how much your mortgage would be coming down. I'm going to give you some examples. And so this is the actual mortgage itself, not the purchase price, because I don't know how much you're putting down, right? So if you put down 20%, well, then add 20% to that, right? If you're only putting down 10%, well, then add 10% to that, right? So you get the idea. This is for your actual mortgage amount, right? So if you're a first-time home buyer, right, or you're second-time home buyer, maybe you're moving from a condo to a townhouse or something like that, depending on where you're buying, and let's just say that you were qualified for a $600,000 mortgage currently, right? And then what does that mean after June 1? Okay, that's gonna drop your qualifying down to about 570. So you're gonna lose about $30,000 in borrowing power under the current rules versus the new rules that are coming into place. Let's just say you got a slightly healthier budget and you're looking for you're currently qualified for an $800,000 mortgage currently. Then after June 1, that's going to drop to a $750,000 mortgage. So you're going to lose about $50,000 of buying power at the $800,000 mark. And then let's just say that you're a nice, healthy move-up buyer. You're established in your careers, and you're going to be taking on a much larger mortgage. And you might have said, okay, I can qualify for $1 million mortgage. So currently, it's $1 million. After June 1, $945,000, right? So you're losing about $65,000 of borrowing power, right? So just to kind of put it into perspective, right? Obviously, you can see the percentage is going to be roughly the same. But I mean, obviously, as you go higher, 4% is a bigger number. Sorry, you know what I'm trying to say, right? The number of 4% is larger, right? The percentage is the same, but obviously the number is bigger the higher you go, right? So, so anywhere between like 30,000 on the lower end, maybe up to 65,000 on the higher end. That's going to be the difference, and you can see like that's. If you're looking, Ross, you're looking at some of the properties that you're helping your buyers buy right now. If you got a $50,000 spread, or you're well out of the game, right? Big time out of the game, right? You're not even really close anymore. So, just to try to put that into perspective a little bit.
No, and I mean this episode is more, guys. It's more of a current. This is what's happening right now. We want to educate you, so you understand that there's a huge opportunity right now to take advantage of the markets. We do anticipate there's going to be, we'll all be hearing about this in the coming days, whether it's on the news or from local realtors. But the reality is get your rates locked in. Let's get out, get started. We've got some amazing mortgage specialists out there, brokers. Obviously, if you're comfortable within your umbrella of your bank, we understand that. But there's a lot of different products out there that will speak to you, and it's all about customizing to what makes the most sense. And then again, I can't emphasize enough about let's just get your the reason that we're doing this, as I said earlier, is that all the household debt that's why the banks are using this, and it's going to create a frenzy. But being careful with your credit, reducing your debt. You're going to have to look at areas where maybe there are lower property taxes, to ensure that you're keeping your everyday, your household budget a little bit lower. That's why they're doing this. I mean, it makes sense. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be caught where you're paying that mortgage that from going from a 25-year amortization to 30. That sounds awful, right? So just get organized and contact Andrew and myself, and we can put you in contact with a mortgage representative right away.
Yeah, I can tell that you're not a big fan of the 30-year mortgage, which is fine, to each their own. I'm personally a fan of the 30-year mortgage, but that comes with conditions, because it's not a matter of taking the longer mortgage so that you can have more money to spend, but it's realistically saying, okay, what can I'm just going to make up numbers here because I don't actually have them off the top of my head, but let's just say the difference between a 25-year amortization and a 30-year amortization is $400 a month, right? Mm-hmm. Let's just say, what can I do with that $400 a month that is going to be that I could get a higher return off of that $400 a month, sure. Than, again, ridiculously low interest rates, right? So, do I want to pay off, let's just say I've got a car loan, right? That's at 8%. I'm just going to, again, or 6% or whatever the case may be. Do I want to be paying off the 6% car loan? Or do I want to be paying off the, 1.5% mortgage? Right. So for me, I would say I would rather take that extra money and throw it onto the car loan, and then roll that over into something else. And, or, if you carry credit card debt, pay that off. That kind of stuff. Or, if I can say I'm going to add to my RRSPs, and I know that I'm historically getting, I can look at a track record. I've got a good financial advisor. I'm not doing it myself, where I'm getting substantially higher. Like if you get, that I do my own trading, I'll easily do, 30 to 50% a year, but most people don't have that knowledge base. Right. So, if you're saying, okay, I'm going to get an average return of 8%, then I'd rather put my $400 in the 8% than I would be to put the $400 into paying off the 1.5 or 2% mortgage. Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, Andrew might be doing a spin-off show for stock investing. Yes, you did hear it correctly. He did say 30 to 50% increase. No, I just had to give you a plug there. Obviously, that's amazing, and use of your money. Another thing too, just to comment, is if you are doing well or you have additional funds that come in, you want to know, like some of the banks will offer you can pay down 10, 15, 20% of your principal as well too. And I mean, the name of the game is paying down that principal, right? I'm looking forward to paying off my car in the next couple months and eliminating those payments. It's eliminating payments and paying down the principal, so that we can all get our money working for us, like you obviously are in the stock game.
Yeah, well, and so like you said, like what are you going to do with that, right? What are you going to do with that money, right? So this ends up turning into a conversation about, I guess, wealth growth, right? Wealth generation and building that kind of stuff, right? Like, how smart are you going to be with your money? You're going to be like, hey, I just paid off my car. I now have, I don't know. I took the 30-year amortization. I rolled it into my car. That was, let's just say it was a $700 a month payment or something like that. Now I got that paid off, and I paid off something else, and now I've got $1,200 a month cash flow, right? The extra cash flow that I didn't have before. What are you going to do with that? Are you going to say, woohoo, I'm going to go buy a luxury car now, and you just roll it back into bad debt? Or are you going to say, okay, what can I do with $1,200 a month? And maybe at that point you say, okay, here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to then roll that $1,200 a month into my mortgage payment, like you said, and start hammering down on my mortgage, which would then free up equity in my property so that I could refinance it, take
Awesome.
it out, and go buy an investment property with it.
Right.
When you start talking about return on investment, right? Return on capital, return on investment, the numbers get like incomprehensible when you start thinking about okay, I'm going to make up some numbers. I've got some money I've got $200,000 in equity in my house because the market went up, and I can qualify to access that. So let's just say on a normal investment property, I put 20% down, and under normal of my savings, I saved and I saved and I saved, and I came up with 20% out of the investment property, and I bought an investment property, and that investment property, and it's not a crazy stupid market where it's just going 30% a year. It's normal. We just say it's 6-7% per year is going up, whatever, and that ROI ends up being a 50% return on investment, let's just say. So I'm going to buy an investment property. It's going to go up. I'm going to pay down my mortgage. I'm going to get some cash flow, and my property is going to appreciate. And those together will equate to about a 50% return on investment every year. What happens when I borrow that down payment? Now it's not out-of-pocket service. It's not how much I invested, because now instead of saying I borrowed, you borrow $100,000, let's just say, right? What does it cost you to service $100,000 worth of debt at 2%, or actually it would be higher than that, at 3.5%, right? Let's just say it costs you, and again, I don't have a calculator here or whatever, but let's just say it costs you, I don't know, $5,000 a year. It's probably more than that, but let's just say it's $5,000 a year. Mm-hmm. Now what happens to your return on investment when really you're only investing $5,000 a year into that, what was 50% return on investment? I really should have had this planned out beforehand, but this is just a tangent that I'm going to go on here.
I think we're going somewhere with a future episode.
This ends up being like a 450% annualized return on investment, right? And someone's like, you can't get that kind of a return. You can't get that kind of return. Well, why not? If you do things properly, right? And you buy the right type of property, and you buy the right, and you leverage your money, and you're smart with your money, and you don't spend it on dumb stuff. And Lord knows I spend money on dumb stuff. So I'm not I'll be hypocritical there, but I know that I can tighten it up a little bit, and I know that everyone else can tighten it up a little bit. Right. But if you put a plan in place and you say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and this is how it's going to work. And then you look back a year later and you say, yeah, I put in $5,000 a year, so $600 a month to carry the home equity line of credit. I took that home equity line of credit and I bought an investment property with it. And my investment property has gone up, I don't know, 5-6% this year. And I paid down my mortgage. Well, the tenant paid down my mortgage, and I made $100 a month on cash flow, right? Whatever the case may be. Boom. That return on investment is ridiculous. Now take it a step further. This is where it gets really mind-blowing. What happens, and it's going to be almost impossible in this market, but you can find them. What happens when the cash flow off of that property pays for your line of credit, your home equity line of credit payment?
Amazing.
It's infinite return on investment because you're not putting anything into it. Right? That's the whole other people's money thing, right? OPM, other people's money. I'm going to borrow money from somebody, and then that person's going to pay me for what I bought it. And for the money that they paid me, I'm going to pay back the person that I borrowed it from.
Leveraging time, leveraging other resources. Yeah, no, I like where you're going with this. Like, get your money working for you, right? The financial fitness of having cash flow. It's the art of financing, being able to, in that day and age where you're that creative, where you can refinance by appreciating assets, get that positive cash flow. No better place to do it in real estate. But obviously you're doing great in stocks as well too. But that's
the stocks takes a lot more time, right? Real estate is virtually passive, right? You don't need to manage a property on an hour by hour basis, right? So the reason that people don't get into stocks and all that kind of stuff is they got full-time jobs, and I do too. And there's days that I'm like, messed up because I wasn't there, right? I could be doing better. I could be doing a lot better, right? But it is what it is, right? So, but yeah, real estate it's a relatively slow-moving ship. It's a big ship. It's a massive ship, but it's a slow-moving ship, right? So you're not going to get the value of your home just dropped 20% in an hour.
Nope.
It doesn't happen like that. You see stuff coming, and even if something does, these catalysts that are coming, the stress test has been announced like months beforehand. You can prepare, and then even still, when it comes into play, the effects of that will take months to kind of play out. It's a slow moving ship, and then you can adjust and pivot. You got time, right? You don't have to be, overly emotional and reactionary in real estate.
I honestly think that there is going to be some confusion in the market coming up. I really think that we're about to see a second wave. We're going to see a strong spring market as we've discussed, but I also anticipate that there's going to be media saying that, it's unsustainable, prices are going up too quickly, so on and so forth. So I honestly, right now, just for everyone out there that is listening to obviously our show, there could be a little bit of confusion coming up in the weeks and months ahead. But we honestly can tell you that prices will continue to climb, whether it's 5%, 8%, 10%. I could tell you that my projected increase in homes this year is somewhere upwards of another 10 to 15%. Now, that might be aggressive, but I don't want you to be sitting in January, February, March of 2022 going, oh, well, I should have bought this year. Because how many times have we heard that? Oh, I should have bought when I first started looking, right? Yeah, but none of us, it's a process, it's understanding. And then a big component, like we've emphasized throughout this episode, is getting pre-approved, understanding, cleaning up your credit, what can get your money working for you. That is what we're here to serve you guys, to educate you. And I love what Andrew just said there. I mean, that's so powerful in terms of where we all want to be, and you can get there creatively if you're not afraid to, and you might make a couple mistakes along the way, but at least you'll be building equity.
Yeah, it takes, the other thing too is it takes time, right? It's real estate can be boring, and it should be boring. You shouldn't be so emotionally exciting that you're like, oh my God, every day it's like this a roller coaster. No, it shouldn't be like that, right? Real estate is a slow moving ship. It should be done with it should be thought out. It should be purposeful. You put the work in, you put the time in, and then you set it up and it does its thing. And you just let it do its thing, right? You don't plant a seed in a vegetable garden and sit there being like, how come it hasn't grown? How come it hasn't grown? How come it hasn't grown? Right. And then when you finally see it breaking out of the soil, you're not like, well, I'm going to harvest it. I'm going to harvest it. I'm going to harvest it. Right. It doesn't work like that. Real estate is the same. Right. You just have to be patient with it. That's what we said earlier, right? It's a 5 year, at least 5 year. It's a 5 year game at least, right? Let it do its thing. We bought our property. This is before I ended up learning more about the stock market and all that kind of stuff. I didn't have faith in it. I didn't have faith in these so-called financial advisors, et cetera, with their MERs. And I'm going to, your property, your portfolio is going to go up 4% this year, but I'm going to take 3 of it. And when it goes down, I'm also going to take 3 of it. I don't believe in that. Right. So years ago, we said, okay, we're going to buy an investment property for our kids' education fund. Right. So when our kids go to university, I said, well, how are we going to pay for 3 kids to be in university all at the same time? I bought an investment property, right? Well ahead. It's just doing its thing. And in fact, we bought a townhouse in Milton for $330. And I felt that by the time the kids went to university, I would have enough money if the property was worth $550,000. And I said to myself, who in their right mind is going to pay $550,000 for a townhouse in Milton? I'm like, that's just bonkers. But I thought, well, I got 15 years for that to happen, so maybe it will. Well, geez, I mean, I could sell that for $750,000 to $800,000 all day long.
Yeah, easily.
Right?
No, but where will it be
when they go to university. I don't know, it'll be $1 million or more, right? Yeah. So, you know, let it do its thing. Use time on your hands.
I'm a big believer that we should all own 3 properties, right? Our primary residence, and then I'm going to argue 2 investment properties by the time I'm done saying this, but an investment property with where you're getting positive cash flow, and then a vacation property, which in this day and age could be an additional investment property, right?
Yeah.
And then with positive cash flow, so on and so forth, pyramid payment where you're paying down one of those properties aggressively. Ideally, you get to a point where your primary residence paid down, and then you can start focusing on paying those other properties down. You can be creative and refinance and buy additional properties or go into stocks or diversify. But the name of the game is making it happen, right? You know, get your money working for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it, man. That's it. If you buy one investment property, just one, you're better off than 90% of the population, right? You're set up, right? Your retirement it just got a little dose of I don't know, nitrous oxide or whatever it is.
I like how the stress test episodes turned into episode 4 of the investment series.
I like how you thought that, because I was just thinking about the title to be like stress test and episode 4.
No, but like, so, and just to finish that, guys, like you think about it too, like what we've talked about is rental amounts are only increasing, right? So if you're continuing to earn additional principal year in, year out, you can then afford to pay down the additional income each year. You can afford to pay down your principal a lot quicker. So like Andrew said, it is a bit of a slow game, but you should be excited about the property you buy and then know that it's a hold. And I would argue many more years than 5 years. But you know, I know a lot of people out there that buy properties and then they're flipping them within 2.
Sure. And that's a good point, right? That goes back to some of our first comments about in episode 1 about the type of property you want to buy. Obviously, you're not going to buy a flip and hold it for 5 years minimum, right? That's not what we meant. But if it's a buy and hold, you want to hold it for probably 5 years, right? That, you know, to maximize what you're going to get out of it.
Or a refinance, where you know, flip yourself, you get that money working for you again, add water, repeat. And one of the things that we talked about too, like previous episodes, is converting those properties, right? Converting those properties, like say you got a bungalow and the zoning allows in Cambridge for you to turn it into 2 semis and you've got the parking. Well, all of a sudden, lo and behold, you could be living in one or you could be renting them both out and you've just literally doubled your income.
Yeah, for sure. All right, wrap this bad boy up or what?
Episode 11, ladies and gentlemen. I am very pleased to be here with my friend Andrew Roach. I am Ross Bridges. This is the R&B Real Estate Show. We are here helping you find your way home.